So let's start from the end, right? I'm ending my year with a lot of excitement. I'm gonna raise this a little bit. I'm ending my year with a lot of excitement about the future. I'm ending my year with a lot of clarity about the things that I really want to focus my energy on. And I'm also ending the year extremely motivated, right? But at the same time, I'm ending the year somewhat uncertain and scared. And we'll talk about that, in the later part of the video as to why I'm ending the year on a scared note. But for you to really understand this cocktail of emotions that I have right now about 2025, you kind of have to understand like where this whole thing started from, right? So we need to go back to 2023. So no, 2022 actually. So in the second half of 2022, I closed down my previous agency, Kada. I closed the agency down. I fired all my clients. In hindsight, that's a stupid decision. Don't be like me. But it was a number of different reasons. I think I was burnt out. Number one, two, I was just a very immature business person, and I was too idealistic and optimistic about the world. So, like I said, not a smart move. But no worries. I had some money saved. I'll be able to live. It was all good, right? So between that time and early 2023, I had fun. I tried a number of new things. That's when I launched CBA. I taught a lot of people. I did a lot of coaching and mentoring, and it was cool, right? But in 2023, in 2023 January, February, like I hit this really deep trough of depression. I don't know why. I don't know why or where it came from, but I just was feeling extremely sad. Now the funny thing is, on paper, I had a great life, right? We just got a car. My wife was out of town traveling. I still had some money in the bank. I was doing stuff that I really enjoyed, and I was, optimistic about the future. So I don't know where it came from, but I felt really, really sad. I felt really, really down to the point where I needed to, because my wife was out of the house, I had to ask one of my friends to come hang with me, for a few days because I just wasn't sure what was going to happen. So shout out to Lee, just for pulling through, man, when I needed somebody to be around. And I also called a bunch of my friends and they prayed for me. But whatever the case, something was up and I didn't know, right? But I think I survived that by the grace of God. And then my wife ended up coming back to town. So this was around just a little into like Q3 or Q2, but just a little, I don't know exactly what, but like about late Q1, early Q2, middle Q2, my wife came back to town and then I found out we're pregnant. We're going to have a daughter. Now that came with mixed feelings. One, I was excited. It was kind of on time. We had a plan, that was the plan-ish. So I wasn't worried, but see, it also wasn't the best possible time because I was just trying to figure out starting a new business, right? And having a kid while trying to start a new business, that wasn't going to work. And also, I had fantasies about being in a certain financial position before I had a child, and it just doesn't feel like it. Because yes, I had some money in the bank, but I was running out of runway. I didn't have a job. All right, so it didn't feel like a great time in 2023 for me to be thinking about having a daughter and starting a business. But I'm like, hey, you know what? It's not bad. It's all good. We'll keep going, right? So I started spinning up my new agency, right? Because at this point, the market I used to serve has sort of dried up, and I lost momentum because I shut down. I tried to rekindle some old relationships, but I don't think I ended them well, so it never really took. But hey, I saw an opportunity in Ghana. I had a dream. No worries, we're going to make this work. So I started spinning up a new agency. I kind of started working on it, started thinking about the idea, and I decided I was going to focus on the Ghanaian markets because that's where the opportunity was, right? So I started working on it. By Q4 2023, it was kind of looking good, right? Because I spoke to a few friends, spun up the new agency, built a new website, did all the cool things, and we started getting some inflow, started getting some pipeline. So I was very excited, right? But see, the problem was I had way too much ego, right? So by the time we got to Q4, leading into Q1 of 2024, which was this year, I started losing the project. I lost the first project, and I think I'd lost the second one, right? And at this point, it still didn't sink into my head that, I was full of it. But when the third project didn't go through, that's when I was like, oh, okay, I think we have a problem here. But at this point, I was devastated, right? Because all the pipeline that I had hopes for was gone. Baby hospital spent. So we were running through that runway really, really fast, and rent was due. Yeah. If there was a if there was a visual picture of trials and tribulation, that was it, right? It wasn't looking good. And I was, as a man in the house, obviously I was extremely frustrated, and I was like I was not in a great place mentally, right? But I think God was trying to teach me a few things. Actually, just two. One was to show me my ego. I felt like a lot of the projects I lost, I did because I had an ego, right? I was too full of myself. I thought I knew everything, and I didn't actually learn the things I needed to learn and maneuver the way I needed to maneuver to close those projects. So although I was good and I had the skills in the portfolio and everything, those were one of the most important things. We'll talk about that in a different video. So that was the first thing, which is I had an ego. Two was I wasn't being honest with myself about the things I really wanted out of life. I think I live in a certain kind of idealism, and that tends to color the way I approach things. And at that point, I just wasn't honest about the fact that I wanted to build a big business, and I also wasn't willing to accept what it would take to do that, which is still a problem for me, by the way. But those were the realizations, right? So as hard as it was, I noticed that, okay, there's something good here, right? There is a reason why this is happening to you. There's a lesson here for you to learn. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to learn the lesson. And in the midst of all that was also where I started really trusting God, because I felt like I just tried everything I knew how to do and it still didn't work out. So if that's happening, then God has a plan, and I need to be okay with that plan. I need to start leaning into that plan and to start understanding and trusting his ways and not just mine. So I made 4 resolutions. Hopefully I can remember them. I made 4 resolutions. Resolution number 1 is that I'm going to trust God, like I just said, right? Trust him, trust his leading, trust his, his guidance. Number 2, never get desperate. See, because bad things happen when you get desperate. And when you're desperate for money, you start to move funny, right? So I didn't want to rush to get a job. I didn't want to compromise the vision that I had, all because I wanted some money. And those problems were real and I had to solve them. But I had faith they could be solved in other ways without me getting desperate, right? So 1 is trust God. 2, never get desperate. 3 is embrace the lesson. When we get in a season of difficulty, it's very easy for us to want to rush out of it, right? Especially if you're Christian. Most Christians pray that their difficulties go away. And I know it's cliche and it's Christianese, but you hear people say, like, don't pray for your problems to be over, pray to be stronger. I think it's real. I think it's a real thing for you to want to build strength and to build tenacity in those moments in your life where life is quote unquote hard, right? So I didn't want to run away from the lessons. I didn't want to miss out on the things God was trying to teach me. So my 3rd resolution was to embrace the lesson, to stay here and to actually make sure that I embrace all the lessons that God was trying to teach me. So that was resolution number 3. Resolution number 4 was to do the things that I knew could work. Because see, I wasn't new to this whole starting a business thing. I wasn't new to my skills. I was actually quite experienced, and I've helped, generate revenue for like a few businesses in the past. So I knew some things worked. So instead of getting desperate and, jumping into trying new things, I'm like, you know what, just trust God. Know that you have to be here and start doing the things you know could work. So while still in this very challenged state, I started working on those things, and we rolled into Q3. So by Q3, a few projects have started coming in. I've spoken to some friends. So they started making some recommendations, and at that point, slowly, but things started to trickle in. Work started to trickle in. I know clients came back. We did some work together, made a few $1,000s. It wasn't enough to like assuage all my money issues, but at this point, I was beginning to feel a little like, okay, we can breathe a little, right? It still was challenging, but at least there was progress. Fast forward to Q4, beginning of Q4 of this year, 2024, I started feeling a lot more hopeful and optimistic because we're starting to build a solid portfolio. We're getting projects. And I was also learning that I wasn't necessarily wrong. I just wasn't humble enough, right? Because I was right about the quality of work we could do at Oxygen. I was right about the perspective we brought to the work that I thought was missing. I was right about the need and demand in the market. I was wrong about how I think we're going to go about delivering that, right? But for the most part, I was on the right track. So I'm starting to feel hopeful. I'm starting to feel like, you know what, maybe this could actually work. I still have money issues, in quote. This is the thinness of being cash flow wise, but I'm generally feeling optimistic, right? So sitting here at 9:31 a.m. in my office, December, 31st, 2024, the biggest thing on my mind is that tension between all this excitement and the uncertainty I spoke about. So let's talk about the uncertainty. Why the uncertainty? I think that uncertainty exists because one of the other things I've learned, as much as I've learned what I need to do and gain clarity, I've also realized the things I needed to do in order to be able to grow. Okay, if I'm going to grow the business, if I'm going to grow my brand, if I'm going to get to all these goals that I have, then I need to do this personal development thing. And I put it in quotes because the truth of how it needs to be done goes against some of my strongly held beliefs. So I need to become a completely different person if I'm actually going to change my life. So I have other skills. I have other resources. I understand the science and the arts, of building a personal brand, but it just feels cringy, right? And Mika, a good friend of mine, Mika and I have been talking about this for a minute. Like, it's been on my case like the last half of the year, actually, because I know it myself. It doesn't matter how good you are. If you can't be found, you don't get work, right? So all the skills I have, all the abilities I have, all the incredible things that I can do only is valuable in the context of me actually getting in front of people, right? So that's still the thing that I'm struggling with. That's still the thing that I really feel like I have to come to terms with. And at this point, I can't deny it. It's important. It's crucial. It has to be done, right? So that's kind of where I'm at in 2024, looking into the next year. So what now? Okay, you have this motivation and this clarity, but at the same time, you have this fear. Like, how are we actually going to progress? I have 3 resolutions that I'm trying to work through. 3 things that I believe from reflection could be the most pivotal points of how I approach my year, how I approach 2025. And here they are. Thing number 1, I need to exploit more than I explore. See, there are 2 ways or 2 states of everything. Every stage in life, every relationship, every business, everything you do. One is exploration, the other is exploitation. Exploration is you're trying new things out. You're trying to figure it out. You're looking at the lay of the land. You're running tests. You're running experiments. At this point, you don't really know. Exploitation, on the other hand, is you're trying to make the most of what you know already works, right? So I'm at a point where I feel like the things that will cause the most growth next year is more exploitation than exploration. Because in the last 5 to 10 years, I've created a lot. And I never really go back to finish the things I've created because I'm an excited brain and I'm always on to the next thing. But I'm realizing there's a lot of value hidden in all the things I've created, in my existing resources, my existing networks. So the growth for me is to do better and more out of existing things, not necessarily chase new things. So it's a resolution I'm making to actually focus more on exploitation as opposed to exploration. So that's thing number 1. Thing number 2 is I need to practice great. See, I think I've been blessed with a lot of good ideas and blessed with resources and networks and things that can help me bring those ideas to life. I think I'm even blessed with like being a good starter, right? But my problem is that I quit too early. I quit way too early. Or earlier than I should, right? Because I think some people looking from the outside may not even see me as that, but like I quit earlier than I should. So I want to practice great. I want to practice the discipline to keep going, even when I don't feel like it, even when I feel like I'm done, right? Because it's always not true. When you feel like you're done, you still have more in the tank. So this year, if there's a trait that I want to build, which is thing number 2, is I need to practice great. I need to learn how to keep going. I need to stay on task. I need to do less. I need to do better. And I need to be able to like stay on things for a much longer time than I feel like I should stay on it, right? So that's like thing number 2. Thing number 3 is like, if there's one skill that I need to learn this year, what would that skill be? I think if there's one skill that I need to learn this year, it will be sales and marketing, or marketing and sales. Now, here's why that's crucial. In all the things I've tried to learn, in all the conversations I've had, in all the reading I've done this year, I enjoy creating new opportunities. And I find that, especially in Africa, it's not that we don't have resources or we don't have skills or we don't have talents or we don't have abilities, right? Oftentimes, we are lacking 2 things, right? We're lacking 2 things. One is we lack vision, right? Vision creates value, in my opinion. You can have the most, valuable human resource, or the most valuable natural resource. I don't even have to, this. If you're African, you know this. You can have the most valuable resources, but without a vision for that resource, you actually don't have any value in that. So I think one of Africa's biggest problems actually is that we don't have vision for the resources that we have, and we don't have visionaries. So we are unable to create value out of the things we have. But thing number 2 is, even in the value that we're able to create, we don't know how to distribute that value properly. So I've met designers, developers, creative, technical people that are incredible at the things they do, but they're not getting paid for it. They don't have opportunities. Why? Because they can't market and they can't sell. I've met businesses that could be doing 10 times more revenue than they are. Why aren't they doing that? They can't market, they can't sell. There is a lot of opportunity I've seen, especially in Ghana and some other African countries, where it feels to me like the problem is we don't know how to market well. We don't know how to market well the value that we already created, aside having the problem of not being able to create value, right? So for me, and the thing I want to build, I feel like leaning into sales and marketing, which in my opinion is getting the right service in front of the right person at the right time, in the right way, at the right price, right? Getting those things right is a crux of it, right? If I can master that skill, it will change my business, it will change my own life, and it will change the life of the people that I care about, right? Not just my family, but also technicians, talent, other businesses, etc. So I think there's a huge value unlock over there. And thing number 4, if there's one thing I need to be more of myself. See, when you learn a lot like I do, when you're somebody who's always learning, somebody who's always looking for new opportunities, when you do that, one of the problems you start to have is like you lose a sense of yourself because you become an amalgamation of the different things you're learning, the different people you're talking to. And that's happened to me a lot. And I feel like there is so much value and potential in me leaning into who I am, right? I'm a talkative, I'm a thinker, I'm a concept person, I'm an idea person. Like all those things are valuable and I need to lean more into those things. So it's to become more of myself, to become more of who I was created to be and less of what other people think I should be. Now, those are my 4 resolutions, hopefully for 2025, right? 1, which is exploit more than I explore. 2, build grit or practice grit. 3, become an expert at marketing and sales. And 4, become more of myself, right? I think if I could pursue these 4 things diligently, I will be able to get to the goals that I have. And that is kind of how I'm dealing with, those things I said from the beginning. That's how I'm choosing to approach the excitement, but at the same time, the fear and the doubt that I have about going into like 2025. So if you've miraculously, because this video is like close to 15, 17 minutes, if you miraculously stuck with me to the end of this video, the question I have for you is, have you made some time to reflect? Because see, no matter who you are, no matter what situation you found yourself in 2024, you have gathered gems, you've gathered lessons, you've gathered opportunities, you've gathered things that could potentially set you up for 2025. But if you don't take the time to sit and reflect, if you don't take the time to ponder, to look back, to thoroughly assess your experiences and pull out lessons, you miss out on all of that. So you could be going into 2025 with a bag full of helpful things that you never get to use because you just haven't made the time to sit down and ponder. So this is your cue. You don't have to do it on the 31st. You can do it anytime this video comes across your feed. Take some time, sit down, ask yourself, what do I want my 2025 to look like? And what have I learned from 2024 that I can apply in 2025? I'm optimistic, like I said, and I'm looking forward to doing some incredible stuff by the grace of God. And I wish the same for you. So Merry Christmas, although Christmas is past. It just feels right to say it. And a Happy New Year. I wish you a fruitful and an epic 2025. And hopefully, I'll see more of you. Cheers.